this tutorial, I'm going to go over how to create a 20-ounce skinny tumbler template for sublimation. I'm using Silhouette Studio Basic. I have a EcoTank 15,000 printer. I have Cosmo Ink, Sublimation Ink, and I'm also using Crafty Besties 8.5 by 11 sublimation paper. So the first steps you would go through is measure your tumbler and get the length and the width. Once you have that, you will come into Studio and you would draw your square. Click on the lock to unlock it and type in your dimensions for your tumbler. Once you have those dimensions, you would click on the lock to lock it back up so it keeps those dimensions in the shape of your square. For this purpose, I have already created my square with my dimensions of 9.575 by 8.20. The next step is to think of your background. What background do you want? So I'm going to use a black background HD. Next, I'm going to click on Images, and then I'm just going to come down to the background that I would like to use for my tumbler. Once you have found your background, you will right-click on it, do a Save Image As, type in your name of your image, and then save it to the location that you want. So I already have my image downloaded. A trick to use is you will go to the folder where that image is, you will highlight the image and just drop it onto your template. Now your background has the background that you selected. The next step is to merge all your images that you want to be displayed on the template. So I'm going to the folder where that image is located, and now the image is here. So I'm just going to resize my image and place it in the location that I want it to be on my tumbler. Alright, I think this is a good location of where I want to put it. And I'm just going to turn it in the location of how it's going to be landscape on your tumbler, just to make sure it looks good this way. I think I might put it more in the middle. So once you have it in the location that you want, you have added your text and everything that you want on the tumbler, always make sure you click Save. The next step is to print your image. So the preview box will come up and you would select Print. You will highlight the printer that you want to print to and you would select Preferences. In this window, you will select the paper type that is designed for the paper that you're using. For the Crafty Besties paper, I am using Premium Presentation Paper Matte. I also click on More Options, and for my color correction, I will like Custom. I click on the Advanced tab and make sure this is ICM. These are all settings for the Silhouette Studio Basic. I also make sure that my mirror image box is checked so that it mirrors the image as it prints. One other thing, I want to make sure that it is in the correct location. It looks good there. Now let's just go back to make sure everything looks good. I'm going to select Landscape for printing because I want it to be in landscape. My paper type is correct. My ICM is correct. My mirror image box is checked. So now that everything is correct, I will click on Print. Now while the image is printing, a couple of notes. Make sure that you let your image dry some before you start cutting out the white space around your image. Once it's completely dry, you want to make sure that you cut all the excess white off around your image because when you are applying the image to your tumbler, you do not want any white space to show up on the tumbler. Please come back for the next steps in this tutorial. Okay, I'm back. So I have printed the template for the tumbler, and as you can see, there is a lot of extra white space on the paper. So you want to cut as close to the black as you can to reduce the white. And you want to try to keep as straight as possible. And you just repeat the same steps for all 4 sides. And now the last side. By removing all of the white, you are making sure that there is not any extra white that will be on the tumbler that should be. Okay, so everything looks good. I'm just going to do it once over. I do not see any white. So the next thing I'm going to do is just wrap this around the tumbler just to make sure that everything looks right. Okay. It looks good to me, and I have some overlap. So that's what you want. You want to have a little bit of overlap. You just want to make sure everything is straight once you start putting the paper on the tumbler. And as you can see, I can move this down a little bit more from the top, but it's right at the edge of the bottom. So next I will show you the taping process. Okay, so I have several sizes for the heat tape, but I'm going to be using this size today. This is probably the inch. So I've cut a few pieces off already. So I'm just looking at the cup, making sure everything is nothing on the cup. And what I'm going to do is take one side and just lay it on the one side and put tape down. I'm going to lay it into place. Just make sure everything looks straight and in place. Okay. And I'm just going to tape that down. Then I'm going to go to the bottom and do the same step without moving anything and tape that down. Okay. Next step is I'm going to, because this is black on black, it doesn't really matter what is overlapping what, because I don't have any designs at the end, at the edge. So I'm just checking to make sure everything looks even. And coming on this side and making sure everything looks even. It's even here and it's even here. So I'm just going to take another piece of tape and lay this side down. And come here and taping this side down. So you want to make sure it is super, super tight. So it looks like something is off. So I'm just going to pick up the tape. And just press. I'm just looking. Okay. I think this looks good now. I'm just coming around, making sure everything is taut without tearing the paper. And I just want to make sure everything is lined up. So let me cut a few more pieces. Okay, so let me do this again. Okay, everything looks totally even. And then I'm going to come down to the bottom. And make sure it is totally taut again. So my overhang, I just want to make sure that looks good. We're gonna make everything super tight in a few. I just want to at least get this. Okay. Oh, I just lost my edge. And then put a little bit there. So I think everything looks perfect. So now I'm going to take a longer piece and I'm going to go around the edge and pulling this edge as close to the tumbler as possible and doing a little overhang. Okay. I'm going to do the same for the bottom. Okay, so I think I have this as tight to the bottom and as tight to the top. So next, I'm going to take masking tape and make sure everything's pressed down even more and cover the whole tumbler. And I'm being kind of strong hand with this. I might be wasting tape as I'm just doing a little bit at a time, but I want to make sure it's super tight. Come down to the bottom. And do the same thing. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap around the tumbler as tight as possible. I do have a lot of force with this, guys. And I'll be back when the tumbler is complete. Okay, so now the tumbler is completely covered in masking tape or painter's tape. And I'm pressing down to make sure everything is super tight. Now it's time to actually bake the cake, or bake the tumbler. Okay everyone, I have my convection oven turned on. It's at 375 for 10 minutes. I am doing the preheat. I have a thermometer in the inside to gauge the temperature for the inside. I'll be back when it's time to place the cup inside. Okay, so now I'm going to place the tumbler in here. 2 minutes on this side. I'm going to roll it to this side another 2 minutes, and then roll it to this side for another 2 minutes. Okay, it has been a total of 6 minutes, so I'm going to take the tumbler out. And we're going to let it sit for a bit to cool off, and then I will come back to take off the tape. Okay, so the tumbler has cooled off somewhat. I have on my heat protection gloves. So I'm just going to start peeling off tape. It's kind of difficult with these gloves on, but we will try to get as much off as I can. I use my little Cricut tool and lift up the tape. Yes, it is very difficult to do it this way, but you don't want to burn yourself. I'm trying just to get the tape and not the paper yet. This might be the tedious part. getting there, guys. And it is done. This is how it turned out. I like how it turned out. And you can't really see the seam either. I'm very excited about this. Okay, well, guys, more to come on sublimation. Until then, keep crafting.